Washington. Joining us a panel of freshman Republican Congressman Radel of the Fort Myers area of Florida, Congressman Tom Cotton of Arkansas, and Congressman Ron DeSantis, also of Florida, the Daytona Beach area. We contacted every single freshman Democrat in Congress. None of them agreed to take part in our panel tonight. So, Congressman, welcome. And let me start right with you, sir. What did you think of the speech today?
I was in awe. It's shocking to me that people are like, wow, the speech was so liberal. Yes, it's President Barack Obama. He's liberal. However, I thought that some of the themes were great, things that all Americans believe in: freedom, opportunity. But the question is how will we implement that? Do we need more government in our lives? Do we need to keep spending our children into debt? Or do we accomplish things, bring the adults to the table, and begin to solve our economic problems?
What did you think?
First, the tone was typical Barack Obama, I thought. He doesn't just want to paint his opponents as wrong, but as morally wrong. He's been doing this with Paul Ryan for 2 years, who's the thought leader on budgetary issues in this country. Doesn't engage his ideas, just calls him names and questions his motives. But then second, on the policy, he didn't address the main crisis we have domestically, our debt crisis. And internationally, all he said was ending war. We don't end wars. Wars are won or wars are lost. And if you're in Iran today or you're part of Al-Qaeda today, then you have to wonder, is America going to be able to take the military actions that may be necessary in the future to conflict as we face?
Yeah.
I was a little surprised. I thought that he would talk more about our debt situation. I thought he would acknowledge the need for economic growth, and he really covered those in passing. But I think it was a pretty aggressive ideological speech if you really sit down and parse it. But he's very effective at kind of making left-of-center points in ways that sound very inviting. And he harkened back to the Founding Fathers, but he was doing it to say, oh, well, here's what we believed, but now times change and we need collective action. So he's really advocating things that they necessarily wouldn't have agreed with, a bigger role for government in aspects of our lives, but he does it in a way that harkens back there. So it's just something that we need to understand. We're dealing with somebody who's very effective articulating a left-of-center outlook.
Have you thought about, you're in the minority. I mean, you're the majority, but I mean in terms of the overall structure of the government. You're in the opposition, whatever, right. But you've got a Democratic Senate, Democratic President. What do you hope to achieve? What do you think is realistic that you could achieve in your term?
I think the number one thing that we have to address is our debt crisis. And I think right now the Republicans have a plan going forward. This week we're going to try to extend the debt ceiling by a few months to give the Congress and the President more breathing room to address a long-term balanced budget over the next 10 years. We have automatic spending cuts coming in place as part of the sequester spending cuts in March, and then the government funding mechanism at the end of March. That'll give us an opportunity to pass a budget in the House, pass a budget in the Senate, then reconcile those two.
So you'd vote for increase the debt ceiling?
As part of coming up this week, there's also a measure attached to it that would require each chamber of Congress to pass a budget by April 15th. Otherwise, their members wouldn't receive any pay. It's unfortunate that we have to take that step, but the Senate hasn't passed a budget now in 4 years, and we need them to outline their priorities as a Democratic Party.
Or your no.
Yes.
I'd be very hesitant to raise the debt ceiling or just put it on the side for right now. We need real solutions. What he's been outlining here are the true problems that we face today. Something, as much as I was in awe seeing the president today and hearing his beautiful speech, one thing that candidate Obama, when he's running, does is he's very successful at dividing people. But our problems are not about racism or anger or rich or poor. They're numbers. And once we realize that we can come together and fix these problems, sheer mathematics, we're going to do a heck of a lot better. But as one half of only a third in all of this picture here, us House Republicans, we don't have much of a voice. I sure would like to see the Senate President work with us.
We lost the election overall, and that's happened before, and people in the 70s like Jack Kemp, he took that to develop new ideas, and so I think we need to be focused on the budget and on fiscal responsibility, but we also got to start thinking anew and coming up with conservative solutions. I think we can reform some of the welfare programs that have really grown over the last 4 years. I also think we can look at some of this crony capitalism. We're viewed, Republicans, as the party of the rich. I don't think there's any reason why we should do that. We shouldn't want banks or big corporations getting special deals. So I think if we come up with a new outlook, we may not be able to get it through with Barack Obama as president, but we're setting the stage for this stuff to be implemented down the road.
And the irony is both parties are really sort of guilty of that capital cronyism, because I mean they both got the lobbyists coming in from the banks and everybody else and all the special deals for everybody. But we're going to take a quick break, Congressman, so just stay with me. We have much more to talk about coming up. From health care to immigration, big battles ahead in the next 4 years. The new congressman will tell you how they plan to fight them. Plus, when he had both the House and the Senate Democratic majorities, he got a massive stimulus bill, and then he pushed through health care reform. It was an easy political ride. But since Republicans took the House in 2010, well, it's been gridlock. So how does the fresh crop of congressmen plan to break the stalemate? We're back with our panel of freshman congressmen. And Congressman Cotton, first to you, the issue of Obamacare. It has passed, but there's a lot of dissension about it. Your thoughts on what you think that you can do with it or you intend to do?
Hopefully we can rein in some of the worst excesses of it and mitigate some of the damage. You know, the law has changed significantly since it was passed. The framers of that law thought that 50 states would have health insurance exchanges, fewer than 20 do. The Medicaid expansion was designed to be mandatory. The Supreme Court ruled that it had to be voluntary. You have over a dozen states that said they're not going to expand it. So I think that gives us in Congress the opportunity to revisit that law and, again, mitigate some of its worst damages. Also to oversee the agencies that are implementing it to ensure that they're not doing things like traducing our religious freedoms.
What about immigration?
Where do we start?
Where do we start?
Do we have the next 7 hours or so? I don't know if Fox will allow us to do that. I would like to take the lead of a friend in me, which is Senator Marco Rubio. I think that there is a moral argument and a fiscal conservative argument, most especially for some of the young people that are here who were brought as infants, perhaps, by moms and dads, who are the valedictorians of our high schools, the star quarterbacks who are going to places like Harvard and Yale on scholarships.
How about the 12 million or so who are here illegally?
I'm open for debate on it. Right now, I would like to see Senator Marco Rubio's lead on it because I fall in line with him. Well, I mean, again, this is number one, I think that
it needs to be done. Turn on this. Don't laugh at him getting on the hot seat.
Yeah, you all are coming up next. We have to do it in pieces. What I don't want is something that was similar to what we were just talking about, such as stimulus and Obamacare. We have these massive packages that are just shoved down the throats of the Americans. We need to do it piece by piece so we can assess and see where we're at and what we can do to correct this situation.
DeSantis.
Well, I'll speak to both real quick. Obamacare, I think a lot of that's going to collapse on its own weight. The president ran for re-election, but the law really hadn't been implemented. Now we're going to start seeing that, and it's really structured in a way that I think it's going to end up failing. The tax that they put on you to buy insurance is lower than it would have cost to buy insurance. So I think a lot of people are just going to pay the tax, and that's going to destabilize the insurance market, and I think you're going to see problems with increased costs. In terms of immigration, we need to get the basics right. We talk about border security. We've still really never secured the border, and I think a lot of people will agree that there are certain high-skilled immigrants that we can fix the system for them.
What about the 12 million or so?
Yeah, I mean, that's not going to be something that I'm going to run to. I think that we have a rule of law, and what I worry about is if you just provide them a pathway to citizenship, you're making it easier for them when they came here illegally, as opposed to somebody who's waiting some other country to come here. And I think I want to stand by the people who are going through it the right way. It's a tough process. We need to make it better, but I don't want people cutting in front of them in line.
And one thing to add to both of these gentlemen in terms of Obamacare, in terms of disassembling it, if you will, Democrats are doing it for us. They've repealed this 1099 ridiculous regulation part, and we are also seeing a repeal of certain taxes that are with it, specifically on medical devices. And
I hope all three of you come back after you had a week or two under your belt more of this. This is fun. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And what do you